and Hippomenes, the story of the original warrior princess and that guy she eventually married. Once upon a time, there lived a king and queen named Iasus and Clymene in the kingdom of Arcadia. For years, they wished above all else for a son. However, all that was thrown out the window when a daughter, named Atalanta, was born instead. Her father, of course, did what any grade-A parent would do when they did not get the child they wanted, and left the princess to die on the side of some random-ass mountain. But even as a baby, little Atalanta was protected by the Fates, who foresaw how much of a badass she'd be later on in life. So they sent out a huge she-bear to care for Atalanta until some hunters came along and took her under their wing. These hunters taught her all the necessary skills for a young woman at the time. How to fight, how to hunt, basically everything she would ever really need in the woods. She chose as her patron goddess the OG badass Artemis. Atalanta admired her so much that she even vowed to stay a virgin like the goddess. They say imitation is the best form of flattery, and Artemis must have been flattered AF by Atalanta because she was essentially a carbon copy of the goddess. Atalanta even killed 2 gross centaur dudes with her amazing bow and arrow skills because they tried to get with her. Robin Hood ain't got nothing on her. Time went on, and Atalanta went on being a total badass, frolicking in the woods. Then she learned that Jason, yes, the same asshat as last time, was journeying on the Argo to retrieve the Golden Fleece. Of course, Atalanta wasn't about to miss out on a chance for adventure. She hopped on that train, or rather, ship, as fast as she could, not even caring about the misogynistic dude bros aboard who thought she couldn't hack it, or that her presence on board would curse them to failure. She wound up being more than useful, fighting off foes easily, and even taking down one of the bros in a wrestling match, Peleus, future father of Achilles. Thus, she earned her place among the Argonauts. During her time upon the Argo, she captured the attention of one of the more attractive members of the expedition, Prince Meleager. They fell in love, even though Meleager was already married and she had taken a vow of chastity. A true match made in Olympus, surely. She totally got her, though, and courted her in the best way possible for a girl like her. He took her on a super dangerous hunting trip. Specifically, he took her on a nice date to kill the Caledonian boar, which was twice as large and twice as aggressive as any other wild boar encountered. The event that really set the date over the top, however, were the uncles of Meleager, who tagged along. For the entirety of the expedition, they were extremely concerned for Atalanta's well-being. However, would she possibly lift that heavy spear, they said, or possibly keep up with the men as they hiked? Such kindness and concern was shown that day. When they encountered the boar on steroids, Atalanta was the first to injure it, coming at him like an Amazon with her spear. However, it was Meleager who actually killed the Caledonian boar, though he did give Atalanta the hide for her courage in battle. What a thoughtful souvenir of their first and, sadly, last date. Turns out those caring uncles thought the hide should be theirs. Meleager wasn't having any of it and straight up killed them. His mom found out about this crime and decided to kill him for it as well. Poor Atalanta, tired and heartbroken, sought out the oracle at Delphi for advice. The oracle turned out to be pretty useless, telling Atalanta things she already knew. To stay away from men and to never get married, for marriage would mean her undoing. Basic common sense in the eyes of Atalanta. However, soon after leaving the extremely unhelpful oracle, she met up with her oh-so-wonderful father again. This time, he decided she was actually fine and accepted her, but did want her to get married like ASAP. She oddly agreed to the request, instead of telling him to go to Hades for abandoning her. However, she did stipulate that any man who wanted to marry her had to beat her in a foot race. If they failed to defeat her, then their lives were forfeit. You'd think this would deter literally everybody, especially as she was known to be the fastest in all of Greece. But these dudes immediately started lining up and promptly lost their lives. In some tellings, it was Atalanta herself who murdered these guys, with a spear she carried with her in the race. Which is where we introduce the only dude who had any hope to defeat Atalanta, Hippomenes. He, like everyone else, was transfixed by the unattainable beauty of Atalanta and had to have her. So he challenged her. Atalanta agreed because there was literally no way he could beat her. She said she found him attractive, like ridiculously attractive, almost over the top attractive, but lamented the fact that his beauty would soon be ruined by the giant spear in his face. Realizing that he would never be able to beat Atalanta fairly, Hippomenes resorted to collaborating with Aphrodite in order to win. Such a great start to their relationship, really. Aphrodite gave him 3 golden apples that were enchanted to be especially desirable. Much like a game of fetch, Atalanta would be forced to stop to retrieve the apples from wherever Hippomenes threw them on the course. Race day. On one hand is Atalanta, a powerful athlete, an honest competitor. On the other is Hippomenes, still athletic and powerful, but less so than his opponent, and also a cheater McCheaterson. They ran, but every time Atalanta got too far ahead, Hippomenes would throw one of the golden apples as far from the track as he could. Quick aside, imagine being so fast that you can retrieve an apple that's way off course, and then come back to the race and surpass your opponent not once, but twice in a row. Right at the end, Hippomenes used the last apple and, quote-unquote, won the race against Atalanta, effectively winning her hand. However, he conveniently forgot to pay tribute to the gods for his unfair win. Of course, Aphrodite wasn't too pleased with him and wound up punishing not only him, but Atalanta by association, cursing them with lustfulness. Their desire was so great, they ended up screwing everywhere, eventually ending up doing it in a temple. Whose it was varies with the telling, but most often it's Zeus. For their sacrilege, Zeus turned them into lions. However, we would like to interpret this as Atalanta finally getting to rest from such an eventful life, getting to live out the rest of her days hunting and lazing in the sun.